Not too long ago, I completed Chimera Squad on its highest difficulty, being Impossible, Ironman, and Hardcore, and I had a viewer in my chat while I was streaming suggesting I should be doing a tier list of the agent of the game, much like what I did a couple of months ago for the XCOM 2 classes, and I thought to myself, that's actually a great idea, so why don't I do it? And that's what I'm here to do today. Before I start, I should lay down my criteria for agents. I valued capabilities of manipulating the turn order, the ability to deny enemy turn, either by skipping them or negating what they could do, raw damage output, the matchup of an agent versus the 3 investigation, and their synergy with other agent, it being abilities or gear wise. Alright, let's get started. This tier list that I found originally had a D tier. I've decided to remove it because I don't think there is any agent that is actually a D tier. And with that being said, I will put as the worst agent of Chimera Squad, Verge. So why is Verge C tier and at the bottom? Well, Verge does come with a handful of issues. His main one being that he is meant as a crowd control character with his stupor ability, but it is super inconsistent at negating enemy turn. And the main reason being that the ability has a double check for it to work properly, because first you need to land the ability, and assuming you succeed that roll, you then need to roll the number of action you will stun the enemy for. But if you roll only one turn of stun, effectively the ability fell, because when it will get to the enemy turn, they will get back up because they only lost one action, and in typical XCOM fashion, they will just shoot you instead of doing anything else. Thus, Stupor did nothing. Next, Verge also has Battle Madness, which gives him the ability to make an enemy go berserk and have them shoot one of their highlight. But the problem with this ability is very obvious. It is too unpredictable to be counted on, and it's a very weak ability. Another problem of Verge is his overall weak ability scaling. Even if you rank him up all the way to the max rank, his overall game plan will remain the same of you stupor something in the hope you will stun it, and then you'll probably shoot after because, well, everything else he gains is overall very marginal. The two ability that I would find probably to be the most noteworthy are Levitation and Collar. The former allows you to shut down an aggressive enemy during breach, and it doesn't have a charge, which is neat. And the later allows you to farm quite a nice amount of intel through the course of your campaign, and that can help on the strategic layer when you want to buy some neat gear in the black market. I think the nail in the coffin for Verge is really his matchups against all of the investigation, because against Progeny, he is near useless, because all of the priority target you would like to use Stupor on, well, guess what? Those targets are immune to mental effect, so Stupor is useless. Against the Sacred Coil, half of the enemies are robotics, so same problem, Stupor is useless. So you are left with Verge being only relevant against Grey Phoenix, and I would personally consider them as the easiest investigation. So yeah, it's really not helping Verge's case. So yeah, that's why for me Verge is overall a C tier. And I think I'm starting to see a trend between Verge, who I put as the worst class in XCOM 2, and who I'm about to put next to Verge. Because it's going to be Shelter. People are really going to start to think I'm a psionic hater. Oh well. Why is Shelter C tier? Let's start talking about Shelter's main ability, Relocate. Relocate allows you, much like its ancestor from XCOM 2, Invert, to swap position with anybody on the field, whether it being an ally or an enemy. The thing with Relocate though in Chimera Squad is that, well, the maps in this games, for the most part, have mostly just half cover, so like swapping position just to like negate their defense bonus from the cover is not as strong of a strategy because of the map. But aside from that, it's really just a niche ability that only benefits a very few agents, such as Godmother, Patchwork, and Zephyr. And of those three, it's mostly just viable for pairing with Godmother. And there's a bit of a problem when you try to combo him with her, is that when you're breaching, even if you were to put Shelter right next to Godmother so that when they breach, they end up in a very close position, you don't get to choose which tile exactly they're gonna end up in. And that leads to the problem that on Shelter's turn, when you want to relocate an enemy where he originally started at for Godmother to trigger her CCS, well, you often have to move to her first and then relocate, because you didn't choose exactly where he ended up with during the breach. And that really gimps his effectiveness at pulling off this strategy, because then you're basically spending an entire character turn simply setting up one instance of a CCS, which is not a particular effective use of an agent. Although, with that being said, Relocate does get a few neat upgrades. The first one being a temporal shift that allows you to relocate to delay the turn of the enemy you're swapping with by about 3 turn in the order. So about equivalent to a terminal pin down ability. And he also can, as the alternative to a temporal shift, he can get distortion field, which is a particularly good upgrade if you want to combo with Godmother, because you will tend to have him end up in an absolute terrible position where he will absolutely get hammered for it, and that really gives him the survivability to take those positions. He, aside from Relocate, Shelter gains the breach ability called Dazzle, which is actually a pretty good ability that you can use once per mission, with the one problem similar to Verge that it's only really useful against Grey Phoenix because, well, it inflicts disorient, and as I've explained with Verge, the key priority target of a progeny are immune to it, and Sacred Coil, half of the enemies are like androids, so wow, that's useless. Shelter also can gain Soulfire, and if I were to compare the ability, it very much is Chaining Jolt from Patchwork in disguise, but despite getting it later, it's significantly worse. Unlike hers, it doesn't chain, so it does obviously less damage, and you at best would only be able to kill one target. And sure, it can delay enemy turns unlike Chaining Jolt, but Chaining Jolt, when it gets its proper upgrade, is a significantly stronger crowd control tool when it gets the ability to disorient and stun en masse. Finally, Fracture, the ultimate ability that Shelter can obtain, is very much the Templar ability Ghost from XCOM 2, which is actually a good ultimate that you really can change the tide of a one encounter per mission that basically duplicates Shelter action economy and kind of allows him to do the combo with Godmother without gimping his own turn, which is cool. That's mostly why I have Shelter in C tier. Let's move on to the B tier with Cherub. Cherub as an agent I would describe as a one-trick pony, mainly because all he really does is apply kinetic shield to other agents, even at max rank, because kinetic shield is actually a great ability to negate damage, so that makes Cherub a good character for denying one turn of an enemy. But the rest of his kit and his overall scaling is quite weak, I would say, because after he does kinetic shield, which is a one action, what is he really doing? Well, he could be shooting with his pistol, but with his terrible aim, he's probably gonna miss, or he could bash with his shield, but then only to do pitiful damage. While we're on the subject of his weak ability scaling, let's mention the few noteworthy ability, being Phalanx, which is actually a good breach ability to negate damage, with the one prime that it only has one charge, as well as a resonance field that allows the target that have the shield applied on to have a substantial plus 15 aim boost. I would say the best way to describe that is basically you're giving auto targeting to specifically an agent, that as long as they don't take a hit, they get to keep it, which is actually pretty good. Weapon wise, Cherub does synergize with Blueblood, which is a great agent to synergize with. And ability wise, I would say he pairs nicely with Axiom, who tends to have a very reckless playstyle, or Shelter, who tends to hold terrible position after relocating. So yeah, that's why I would put him as B tier. Another agent I will put in the B tier is Zephyr. Why is Zephyr B tier? Well, Zephyr is a bit of a weird case because she doesn't have regular weapon upgrade unlike every other agent, so most of her ability promotions are actually where she gets her upgrade for her weapon. Thus she kind of have a what I would describe as a dead upgrade ability tree, where when she promos, she doesn't get something new, she just gets something she would have gotten if she was using a different weapon type. This is a double HK sword because on the bright side, it makes Zephyr quite independent on weapon upgrade. Thus, you can actually pick her on basically any starting squad. But on the bad side, it makes her scaling significantly gutted by the late game, and you really will feel her lack of damage compared to much stronger agent in that department, like Blueblood, Godmother, or even Axiom. Now I guess we get to actually talk about her ability. Crippling Blow is basically her version of the Templar Rand. At the start of the playthrough, it deals 4 to 5 damage, that is much like Templar guaranteed, which is very good. So Zephyr is a really solid choice at the start of your campaign. Zephyr also gets Fearless Advance, which is her version of the attack during the breach phase, which is a tough one because it is much like Crippling Blow guaranteed damage. Although something to note, it doesn't benefit from the damage boost from an ability I'll talk later being Pressure Point, and it also has the ability to break enemies that are on the alert status during breach, negating what they would have done if you were to not kill them. But the main problem with it is that she, when you use Fearless Advance, will deal her damage only after an enemy that are in the aggressive status will have taken her shot. Thus, you really can't count on her to take an enemy that is aggressive before they shoot you. Thus, she overall kind of suck in the breach phase because of that. She also gets momentum and parry, and basically if you've played XCOM 2, you'll know how great these abilities are, so I probably don't have much to add. But I guess if you haven't played XCOM 2, yeah, parry is great to negate an enemy turn, and it can be stacked by giving Zephyr extra action with ability like Terminal's Corporation, and momentum can allow you after you attack to move to a different location, which is quite nice when you consider that Zephyr has the highest mobility of all the agents, so she is very mobile. An ability that I really want to touch on is Lockdown because, well, I think me, like basically anybody who's played Chimera Squad after playing XCOM 2, have fallen into the trap of picking Lockdown, thinking it's gonna be overpowered like Bladestorm is on Templar. Because, yeah, basically what the text tells you is it's gonna give you a reaction attack on anybody that comes close to you. So you'd think it's busted, but unlike Bladestorm, it actually can miss. And it will miss much more than you'd think. And the problem with picking Lockdown is that you don't pick Pressure Point, and Pressure Point is basically essential for Zephyr to stay remotely relevant past the mid game. And it's also a good ability to generate intel during mission. Crowd control, while being a nice ability, it really is just, much like I've explained before, really suffer from Zephyr lackluster damage capability, so it really needs setup to be able to kill multiple target. Moving target would be nice, but literally much like I said with Lockdown, you're basically forced to pick Vital Strike, otherwise your damage will be terrible. And finally, Reaper. On paper is a great ability, being able to chain kill as long as you get the lethal blow is great. But once again, because of Zephyr's lackluster damage output, but also the existence of Serial on the epic assault rifle, really makes this ability not as desirable as you would think, because you are required significant setup to compensate for her mediocre damage if you want to make a good chain out of Reaper. Now let's actually talk about an A-tier agent with Torque. So why is Torque an A-tier? Well, we can start by talking about her bread and butter, the combo of tongue pull and bind, which is particularly great versus progeny to shut down, namely sorcerer, which are obnoxious, with the ability to no lance your guys if they're lined up. It also is a relevant ability through the entire game. It's really a great single target crowd control ability. More of a niche case, but tongue pull is also neat during VIP escort mission where you have to extract a VIP and your 4 agent. Because if you rush her at the exit, you can actually have her pull everyone else to the exit while they spend their action fighting for the reinforcement rather than moving, which is a good strategy. Torque, by being a Viper, is immune to poison, which give her the ability to potentially waste turn against Grey Phoenix because you're fighting Vipers, so you'll have them spit poison on you, but then you're immune to poison, so you wasted the turn. That is particularly an effective strategy if you put someone next to Torque with a medkit. So you have 2 people immune to poison and the AI will be obsessed in the idea of spitting poison at you. During the breach phase, Torque is the only agent who can naturally go through vents, but that honestly rarely come up, and the bonus you get with vents are honestly not that great, so I really don't count that really as a benefit. Toxic Greeting allows her to do guaranteed low damage during the breach phase, and sometimes that's all you need to clean up a low HP aggressive enemy that's about to hit you from a hard position to shoot through. When it doesn't kill though, I really wouldn't count on poison to actually avoid a hit. Unlike XCOM 2, it seems like poison status in Chimera Squad is quite dog shit at reducing the enemy aim. I'm not even sure if it actually does that. Tight Squeeze is quite good if you use Torque mainly for binding high priority target, so that she needs much less time to kill them off, and in longer engagement can actually move on to other target much more rapidly by increasing the damage from 2 to 5, which is quite an upgrade to your damage. Poison Spit is a great AoE damage, particularly against Progeny, since nobody in that faction is immune to poison, unlike Grey Phoenix and Sacred Coral, where that ability can have its use, but it's definitely weaker. Torque's training are quite good actually. More HP is always good. I'll keep repeating it for every agent, but yeah, it's never bad. Increase mobility and dodge on an agent who is actually able to dodge stack, quite good at negating enemy turn that are trying to shoot her. And our final training tag team gives another agent you would pull an immediate action, and I mean, in a game like XCOM, more action is always great, so I will never complain about more action. So yeah, that's why she is A tier. Another one I will put in the A tier is Claymore. Claymore is your typical Grenadier type agent thanks to his starting ability Shrapnel Bomb. Shrapnel Bomb is similar to XCOM 2 Reaper Claymores. It's an explosive that you throw and wait a few turns for it to blow or shoot preemptively. It deals 4 damage and shred 1 armor. This makes Claymore great for AoE damage and shredding, making him the only agent that from the start have built-in shredding capability. Although, something to note from my experience is that Shrapnel Bomb tends to be a bit buggy. Sometime an alien will be highlighted and you'll assume that they'll take damage, only to find out that they come out of it uninjured. And I've had that bug happen a handful of times, so that's something to note about Claymore that I think is one of the reason he's not in the S tier. His concussive charge is arguably the worst breach ability in the game. Maybe I've just had a bad experience with it, but it's so niche because it only works on one breach type that is not found on every mission, and its effect, I've had it most of the time just affect one enemy, so really I haven't had good result with it. Improvised explosive though, on the other hand, is great when you unlock good grenades such as flashbang, plasma grenade, or a stasis grenade that you can spam basically every encounter. Imagine if in XCOM 2 you could fling 3 frost bomb per mission. Yeah, that's kind of what a stasis grenade on a 3 encounter mission feels like. Sticky grenade is what Verge Battle Menace was trying to achieve, being an unpredictable ability that can deal devastating damage when it wants. Although similar to Battle Menace, it can sometimes be detrimental. If an enemy is too close to one of your agents and they run through them, they'll take the damage. So that's something to note. Later down the line, Claymore unlocks the choice between heavy shrapnel and impending doom. From my experience with Impending Doom, on paper it looks great because +2 damage on everything affected is good, especially when you consider a Chimera squad lower damage number, until you realize that the bomb itself does not benefit from the rupture effect for some reason. I'm not sure if it's a bug or intended, but that is another reason why I cannot put Claymore in the S tier. I haven't tested really heavy shrapnel to see if it fixed the bug I've mentioned earlier of not doing the damage on target that are supposed to be in the blast radius. If it did, I would rank heavy shrapnel as better than Impending Doom. Claymore's ultimate ability, Barrage, is nice to make key ability stronger and in a case of Sticky Grain more flexible, but by no means broken or game changers, unlike some of the upcoming agents we're about to discuss. Claymore doesn't have the best first 2 training because he doesn't particularly need the extra survivability that those gives him, but there is a strong case to be made that he arguably have the strongest final training in heavy ordnance, and that is because of the existence of Motile Inducer, a utility item that instantly give another agent an entire turn. Having an extra one of those allows you to really set up some phenomenal turn for longer mission. So yeah, that's why Claymore is A. He got close to being S, but he's got a few issues that prevents him, I believe, to be in that category. The third agent I will put in the A tier is Axiom. Axiom, when starting, really is not an impressive agent because his starting ability are really not great actually. Smash's melee ability deals early on, I would say, reasonable damage, but precisely like Zephyr, really will not scale at all. So by the late game, the damage will be mediocre. Rage is one of Axiom core mechanic, making him a bit of a wild card when he start taking damage, giving him a chance to go berserk and deal damage to random enemy, but it's not a great strategy to employ, at least until you unlock Shrug It Off. And let's talk about that damn ability because it is crazy. So basically, what it does when you take damage, it gives a chance for Axiom to only take 1 damage. You could think Deflect from XCOM 2, but whereas Deflect have at best, what is it, like 40-50% chance to proc? I don't know the exact number at the top of my head, but I think it's around those number. Shrug It Off chance to proc, well, the game doesn't give you the number, but from my experience, seems to be roughly about like 75 to 80%. It procs all the time, really making Axiom the ultimate tank. But it doesn't even stop there. Later on, he unlocks another ability called Regeneration, giving him a flat 2 HP regen per turn. But then, wait a minute, there's even more. When you complete the Grey Phoenix investigation, you can do a research that unlocks Regen Weave that adds an extra 2 HP regen. So you're looking at an agent that when he takes damage, can potentially inflict back damage with Rage, that can potentially shrug it off for 1 damage, and that could at best regenerate every time it's his turn, 4 damage. So why isn't he S tier? Are you crazy? He should be here easily. He should be like, that's broken, right? You just negate turns left and right. Well, let's talk about why I put him in A. Well, mainly because that's basically all he's good at, unfortunately. He's not very versatile. All of his other ability mostly suck, although I'll be touching the couple that are noteworthy, being Adrenal Surge that, when you activate, allows Axiom to use Smash kind of like a cheap run and gun by using Smash as a single action ability that is not turn-ending, allowing you to move forward, putting you in the thick of battle, and then you can potentially shoot with your shotgun. Quick ultimate ability, while far from the greatest, I would say is alright. It's a big AoE that does actually good damage, that also break cover, so yeah, more AoE damage is good. Axiom synergizes quite well with the Claymore and Godmother, because those two, much like him, use shotgun. And that's a really good synergy to have, because unlike the previous weapon synergy I've discussed, shotgun, especially if you start with a shotgun base lineup, you will probably want to upgrade those first. So yeah, that makes Axiom a potential good damage dealer too. So yeah, that's why I put Axiom in A instead of S. He was the agent that got the closest of being S, but that isn't. All right, we only have these 4 left, and well, The next one I will be talking about is Blueblood, which I will put in the S tier. The first in here. So why is he an S tier, you might ask? Well, he is quite unique actually, in that he is an agent that comes with a built-in reflex grips thanks to his quick draw ability. And I guess in case you were unaware, the reflex grip is basically, if you played XCOM 2, kind of Marauder built into an attachment, allowing you to shoot without handing your turn and only consuming one action, making him quite gear friendly actually, because he doesn't need one and is less dependent on getting a grip into the black market. Blueblood is a gunslinger using a pistol for his primary, and that's quite interesting for a damage dealer because every other weapon type in the game coming into Chimera Squad got nerfed. Not so much their base damage, but their more so the damage increase they obtain from upgrades compared to XCOM 2 got reduced, whereas pistol is the only weapon type that actually got buff when you look at their base damage. In XCOM 2, a pistol did 2 to 3. In Chimera Squad, they do 3 to 4. So yeah, you have a character that from the get-go shoot twice, that his weapon type is stronger than they were in XCOM 2, and as a little bonus, he's got a 75 aim to start with instead of 65, so he is more accurate. So basically everything you want from a damage dealer, but obviously for him to being S tier, it doesn't stop there, right? Blueblood obviously gets more ability that are good. He also starts with Deadeye, by the way, along with Quick Draw. It's a nice damage ability, but you won't really use it early on because the aim penalty is too much. You'll definitely start to use it more though when you obtain a superior scopes, because it will help compensate for the penalty. Lancer Shot, his breaching ability, while not top tier by any mean, is nice though to secure damage on an enemy behind thick cover. Later on, he unlocked Phase Lance, and that's really his first true power spike, being a line shape attack that damage everyone in the line. It also doesn't take cover into consideration, so it's an ability that is very easy to land. And it becomes particularly strong when you get the next ability promotion, giving Phase Lance extra damage for subsequent target in the line that you hit. So the first one will take the regular damage. If there's a second one after, they'll take bonus damage, and if there's a third one, they'll take even more damage, and so on and so forth. So really allows Blueblood with that ability to basically clean up a bunch of enemy if they're lined up. Absolutely fantastic. But it does not even stop there. His ultimate ability, Face Off, really cement him as the king of damage in Chimera Squad by allowing him to shoot, if no attachment, 5 target, but if you have a superior extend magazine, you could shoot up to 8 enemy. Needless to say that this ability is top tier, and really there is one other agent that have an ultimate of that power level, but we'll get to it. Blueblood realistically has one problem, and that's being a pistol user means he only synergizes weapon-wise with Cherub, and I mean, just if you look at Cherub placement in the list, it's quite obvious. I don't think that is not a good thing, and that makes Blueblood a fairly selfish agent upgrade wise, because you want those upgrades, but then they only benefit him. So yeah, to close off with Blueblood, back in my XCOM 2 class tier list, I did say that the Ranger was the best single target damage dealer in the game. I definitely would call here in Chimera Squad, Blueblood is that equivalent for sure, and he definitely deserves the title of best damage dealer in a Chimera Squad. Next, in the S tier, I will put Godmother. Godmother doesn't start insanely strong unlike Blueblood, because actually most of her power is locked behind her later promotion. But let's start from what she starts with. Scatter Shot, her starting ability in the right circumstance, is actually quite great at dealing damage. If you can target up to like 3 enemy with it, it is amazing. Although, realistically, it definitely won't happen often. But if you can at least target like 2 enemy, it definitely gets the job done in. I would say it's pretty good. Alpha Strike though, the ability she gets after, it's really the first ability that truly cements her as an S tier agent. And it's easily the best breach ability in the game. And that's because being ahead of the enemy turn is the most important thing for consistency. There is nothing more powerful in Chimera Squad than having your turn going before the enemy turn. Another thing to mention is that Alpha Strike also gives you an extra action, kind of similar to Run and Gun. And Godmother being a great agent to give a reflex grip on, well, it makes Alpha Strike much stronger for one encounter, because that gives you basically an extra shot when she get 3 action thanks to Alpha Strike. Next, Godmother's unlock Ventilate, which is quite nice, but might not be the top tier ability, but it is an ability that have its moment when you're trying to kill a hard to hit enemy behind thick cover, and it really needs to die on like this turn. Ventilate can potentially guarantee the kill thanks to its pretty wide damage range of 6 to 10. And in the case the enemy would happen to survive, well, its cover would be blown up, so the next person in the squad can hopefully clean it up. Close Combat Specialist is Godmother true major power spike. CCS gives Godmother the ability to cheat basically the turn order by shooting an enemy before they get their turn off, assuming they are close enough to trigger. CCS, I would say, is best used when used aggressively by purposely putting her next to an enemy. CCS have a very high hit chance, unlike Zephyr's Lockdown. It really will rarely miss. This ability really makes Godmother the best in-slot agent for any mission reinforcement, because you can just park her on top of where they're gonna spawn and just have her go crazy. She's gonna decimate anything that's gonna come out of those reinforcements. Finally, Godmother's ultimate Overtime is simply put the strongest ultimate ability along face-off in the whole game. Overtime is just, it basically trivializes a wall encounter single-handedly. It's just that good. Godmother synergizes very well with Axiom and Claymore because all share shotgun upgrades, and while from a pure damage perspective, Godmother doesn't beat Blueblood, if you pair her with any of those 2 agents, they'll definitely compensate for that, because as I mentioned earlier, Blueblood is quite a selfish agent because he will be, from a practical standpoint, the only one benefiting from his upgrade, whereas Shotgun, they'll benefit, particularly Axiom and Godmother, because they shoot a lot with their shotgun. Godmother's trainings are great. Mobility on a shotgunner that want to get close is obviously great, and her final one, the ability to reload after a kill, is really lovely when you consider that she's got CCS that will burn ammo like crazy. That is why Godmother is S tier. To finish off with Godmother, in my first playthrough, she ended up with something like a crazy amount of kill. I think she ended up with like 300 plus, whereas like I didn't even had anybody else at like 200. So yeah, that really speaks for her ability to put down enemy. She's really good. Really like her. She's probably my favorite in a Chimera squad from a gameplay perspective. I really like her gameplay loop. We are now left with the final 2 agent to rank here. And it so happened that these are the 2 specialist type of Chimera squad, with Terminal and Patchwork. I guess they'll be facing off to determine who is better. And in my opinion, the second best agent of Chimera squad is, and who will not be crowned as the best, Patchwork. I really like her, so I'm a bit, part of me is a bit sad to not rank her as the best, but everybody obviously in the S tier is great, so she is still phenomenal, and we'll see why. Chaining Jolt, her bread and butter, is great through the entire campaign. It deals a guaranteed 4 damage, also can chain to other enemy, dealing an extra 1 to those, and it really allows her to, if you set up properly, to drop multiple enemy in a turn. If you have your main target at 4 HP, and you have target around that enemy that are set up at 1 health left, you can have turn where she drops 2-3 enemy by herself. It's actually quite beautiful to watch. But it doesn't even stop there. Chain Jolt is fantastic against Sacred Coil, making Patchwork single-handedly the strongest agent against that specific faction, because it will deal extra damage against robotic enemies such as Android and Mechs, dealing 7 to 8, I believe. So when zapping robot isn't enough, Patchwork can also hack them to take control of them and have them part of your team for an encounter. Patchwork is one of the 2 agents that can open locked door during breach, and that's actually pretty good because those usually have pretty handy bonuses, such as avoiding aggressive enemy during breach. So yeah, I would say hers and obviously Eternal, who we'll talk later, both have this ability. It is actually good. Combat Scanner is among the best breaching option in the entire game, giving the whole squad a plus 15 aim on anything in the room. Patchwork can also obtain Stasis, a hard CC option on really beefy enemy such as bosses, and it's really nice because it's an ability that cannot be resisted by any means And the thing I find kind of ironic with the Patchwork stasis ability is that, I don't know if it's just me, but it kind of felt like it should have been part of Shelter's kit. He kind of got robbed there. Like, he's called Shelter and he doesn't get stasis. Kind of odd, if you ask me. Next, both high voltage and shock therapy are a really great option to just make Change Ult better. The former increasing its chaining damage, but I think like the one I really want to draw attention to is the later, because it straight up is broken, and I mean it in a good way. It can single-handedly stun a big chunk of a room, potentially having 3+ enemy just stunned for like 2 turns. Yeah, that's just like, that wins you an encounter by itself. That's how broken this ability is. Patchwork also gets Capacitor Discharge, being her ultimate. Similar to Axiom Quick, it's an AoE that will disorient everything caught within it for also quite good damage. Patchwork also gets some pretty good training. She's one of the few characters that gets an extra slot, but the real game changer is really her final training being an upgrade to Change Ult range, and that's an obvious insane combo with shock therapy to just allow you to make an already great AoE crowd control ability even more powerful by being able to target even more enemy. And yeah, that's why Patchwork is great and entirely deserve a spot in the S tier, because she doesn't have like the raw killing power of Godmother or Blueblood. What she lacks there, she really makes it up for just raw utility, and that's kind of what you want when you bring a specialist. So yeah, S tier for Patchwork. Last but not least, let's talk about Terminal and why she is the best agent in Chimera Squad. As I mentioned earlier, Terminal is, along Patchwork, the other specialist type agent. While Patchwork is clearly more inspired by the combat variant of XCOM 2 Specialist, Terminal is more akin to the medical variant, and that can be very well seen with her main ability, Aid Protocol, that allows her to give anyone plus 20 defense, remove burning, acid, and poison, but most importantly, it heals 4 HP. But here's the thing, did I forget to mention that it doesn't have any charge? So as long as she's alive and you give her enough turn, she can heal over and over and over and over. That is crazy, and this ability makes the whole game completely trivial. Aside from that though, Terminal, much like Patchwork, is the other agent that can open locked door during breach, and as I've mentioned earlier, it is good because the bonus that comes with those doors are usually pretty good. Pin Down is also another great ability because it allows Terminal to delay enemy turns, and I guess I haven't probably insisted on that enough, but turn manipulation is how you win in Chimera Squad. If you look at all the agents I have in the S tier here, so Terminal, Patchwork, Godmother, Blueblood, in some shape or form they all have turned to abuse the turn system and use it at their advantage. Blueblood just kills everything. Godmother, she goes before everybody. Patchwork with her crazy crowd control, and Terminal with Pin Down, she can push enemy down. With Aid Protocol, she can just negate enemy turn by healing the damage they did. It's yeah, turn manipulation in XCOM Chimera Squad is the name of the game basically. It's really how you make your game consistent. Terminal with all of her ability is no exception to that. Cooperation allows Terminal to pass an action to any agent in her line of sight. If you've played XCOM 2, this is basically a combat presence in disguise. It was great in XCOM 2 and it still is in Chimera Squad because of how much you can profit by giving Terminal action to a stronger agent who might have something better to do with that action. Second win, Terminal's ultimate is an AoE heal version of Hate Protocol, healing 4 HP to everyone. In most cases, it's honestly not needed, but if you do happen to be in a situation where you need big heal, this can come in pretty clutch when things aren't going away. And yeah, this is why Terminal is great, because in a game with a intertwined turn system, having a character that can allow you to manipulate the turn order or to negate what an enemy just did to you is fantastic, and Terminal is just super reliable in doing so. So that's why she is in the S tier, and I would call her the best character in Chimera Squad, but yeah, the power level in these in that tier is very close. So I could definitely see someone say like Patchwork is better, or Godmother is better, or Blueblood is better. I think the case could definitely be made, but in my case, I'll pick Terminal. We have arrived at the end of this Chimera Squad agent tier list. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like and to subscribe so you are notified whenever I do another video such as this one. I tend to mostly do XCOM related stuff, so yeah, if that's your jam, you should not be disappointed, hopefully. I also do stream a lot of XCOM on my Twitch channel, so if you're interested in that, you can find the link in the description. With that being said, I'll let you guys go, and I'll see you guys next time for another XCOM video. See you guys later. Bye-bye.